Thank you. Good afternoon again. Sorry about that, a few technical issues. So yeah, basically, I think we got to 2019, March 2019, where NOCN Job Cards took over the management of CPCS. And then the final part of that transition, after we'd been running it jointly for so many months, was in December 2019. I think some people from industry will be aware that we had many issues as we took over the scheme throughout the first 6 to 8 months of running the scheme. We had lots of data issues and many other things besides. But it's quite good now. All our systems and platforms are stable. Throughput looks really good, and it's kind of business as usual. So we're really looking forward to what we can start doing in the future. So I just want to talk about a few of the things that are sort of unique to CPCS and the benefits of using CPCS. With over 300,000 cards issues across more than 60 categories of plant and related occupations such as slinger, signaller, vehicle marshaller, so on and so forth. So they're not all actually driving pieces of plant, but the large proportion is. CPCS is by the largest plant sector card scheme in the sector. Sorry. We have one-to-one theory and practical testing. One of the great things about CPCS is the theory tests. We've got a circa of 70 questions per test, which I think most people know out there that there's lots of websites and lots of apps where question banks are put on for all sorts of things, for all sorts of tests in industry. But actually having those questions, which are such a large scope of questions, and the test that actually probing the knowledge of those individuals gives CPCS a unique quality that people can't. You know, if you look at an excavator test, for example, theory test, circa of 97 questions, people aren't going to remember the answers to those. And if they do, and they're giving the answers verbatim as they're written down, that the test is there to actually probe that knowledge and ensure that the candidate has the understanding of the answers that they're giving. So it's really good. So, and then we come on to the practical testing, and each and every single practical test within the scheme has been developed by industry working groups, involvement from the HSE, so on and so forth. And what's happened is that the people that design those sat down and put logic to them. So all the tests are timed. So they're timed so that we know that the operators not only operating the machine safely, but they're operating it efficiently. So that gives it another unique selling point, if you like, or assurance that, you know, people that are coming to sites next week have got the skills to be able to operate the machinery in a safe and efficient manner. So embedded into each of those practical tests is mandatory failures. So those mandatory failures were taken from what industry consider to be real safety requirements. Example, not wearing a seatbelt. If you fail to put your seatbelt on, we all know the consequences of that. And in our scheme, that would be a mandatory fail. So it's really good. So one of the things that changed over the years since CPCS was launched in 2003, we moved to on-site testing. And there were many reasons for that. One was quality assurance. So it's really easy for CPCS quality assurance. We've got a team of 12 that go out every day, looking at various theory and practical tests, working with centres, so on and so forth. So 90% of what we deliver is delivered at test sites where we can ensure there's no disruption to sites, parts of the tests aren't missed out, the infrastructure that's at that test site is in place, and they can cover all aspects of the test. One of the other things that we done is one-to-one independent testing. We ensure that the testers aren't involved in the candidates' training, so they have no prior knowledge or understanding of that candidate as they've been training them throughout the week or the weeks. When it comes to the test, something in the back of their head saying, oh, well, he did it all right yesterday. We don't have that in the scheme. The test is independent to make sure that it's a measure of that individual's ability and knowledge. All our operators within the scheme generally enter onto the red card and then achieve a VQ and progress to the blue card. There is a route for people who already have that occupational experience and a VQ to go direct to a blue card. Once that blue card expires at the 5-year point, we ensure that the operator has retained sufficient knowledge and skills, and they're up to date. Currently, we work with Pearson VUE, which is the same company that deliver the CITB Health Safety Environment test. We've got over 400 locations throughout the UK where that testing can take place. And again, they're independent, monitored, ID required, so it really does prevent the fraud. And the other part to that, so that ensures that they've got the sufficient knowledge, and the other bit is to ensure sufficient skills. So we request that the individuals complete a CPCS logbook with the required hours, which are machine specific. However, if they do not have those operating hours recorded in a book for whatever reason, excuse me, they can choose to go and do an on-site assessment. And one of the things that we've recently launched is a very similar program for our testers. For many years, under the ownership of CITB, when I sat on the CPCS Management Committee, we always talked about what is the continued professional development of testers. So earlier on this year, we launched some advanced on-site assessments where the testers now have to ensure their ongoing ability and demonstrate their competence and abilities in machine operations. Apologies. We've got over 200 test sites throughout the UK. So we've got a test centre search on the NOCN Job Cards website. You can type in there where you would like to do the test and the type of test that you're looking for. So you can drop down from the categories menu, the category of plant that you're looking for a candidate to achieve a test in, and find the test centre. So we've got really good scope in and around the UK, including Northern Ireland, where we can people can travel to sites without too much trouble. That brings us on to CITB grants. CPCS is currently the only plant card scheme in the UK that can draw down achievement grants for tests, not for training, for tests. So each of the grants are treated as separate grants. The theory elements are £60 each, up to a maximum of 2 per grant year per person. The practical elements are paid at different rates depending on the category of plant. Again, 2 per person per grant scheme year, and there's 3 different rates there: £190, £240, and £410. So there's just an example there that if a test costs £550 at a CPCS test centre and it was an excavator test, you get an automated grant remittance of £470. So the actual cost to you as an employer would be £17 if you're an in-scope levy payer. Other plant card schemes, if you paid £450 for the test, you wouldn't receive any grants for the testing. So therefore, the net cost to the employer would be £450. So that's a real good selling point. And CITB have supported CPCS for many years due to the whole scheme and the route to competence and the continued ongoing competence within the scheme. So that's really useful for employers. CPCS, we have an industry management committee. We meet every quarter, and some of the bodies that sit on that management committee are the CECA, CPA, MPQC, Build UK, FPS, NFDC. One of the important people that sit on there in an advisory capacity is the health safety executive. And again, we work really well with the health and safety executive when they're seeing certain trends in industry with accidents such as machinery overturns, etc., etc. And they come back to us, and we generally put working groups together to look at how we can prevent the reoccurrence of these accidents across the industry, and then change the test criteria or tweak the test criteria, maybe add some questions into the scope of questioning so that the delegates leave with further understanding around safety critical aspects of their role in operating plant. So it's really good. We don't just work with these people, so we also work with other groups such as the Lead AP Forum, and many others working groups that are managed and run by the CPA, and they always challenge us to try and make the scheme a little bit better and change things and keep up to date with everything. So we're very open to change, and since taking over the scheme, we've changed a few of the test specifications and question papers. One of the things that we're currently doing at the minute is working with the tunnelling sector and creating a new category, which is an MSV, which is a multi-service vehicle that can go down into the tunnels with the large-scale tunnel operations in the UK now, delivering various different components or undertaking different tasks. So that's work in progress. There has been a little bit of a delay in getting the machines built and getting them over to the UK from Europe, but soon as one of those MSVs lands in the UK, we'll start to finish putting the scheme together and do the peer-to-peer testing and get the category launched. So one of the things that we did in December 2019 was launch the NFC smart card, so it's near field communication. So if you've got Apple Pay or Google Pay on your phone, that also works through near field communication. So on all your latest phones within the last 5 years, you can enable NFC through the settings within your phone. If you've got an older phone, it may not work. There is some guidance on the NOCN Job Cards website, which will give you the further understanding of which versions of iOS and Android do and do not work. We've recently had some reports where people are saying that we, NOCN, are charging for the NFC reader, and that's not the case. That's because they've gone to either the Google Play Store, Android Store, or the iOS store and downloaded an app, which it will give you so many free views to look at the cards and then start charging you for the use of that app. You don't need to do that if it's a modern phone, it's built in. You can also purchase a little NFC reader that plugs into a desktop, laptop or tablet if your tablet hasn't got NFC, and you can also read the cards like that. So I'm just going to play you a very short video. So that's some great innovation that opens up lots of possibilities for CPCS, and we're working with various different people across the sector in integrating further smarter technology and embedding that into the industry. So one of the key benefits of using NFC is you can validate a card without actually manually entering any data into a web portal. You know, you're not having to type anything. You can tap that card against an NFC device and it will show you the categories that that individual is entitled to operate, including any expiry dates, etc. The data is secured through MyTag, which is the app. The user interface is really simple, as you see from the video. It takes less than a second for it to read it, providing that you've enabled NFC on your device. So one of the things that we're also doing is linking the NFC to a digital logbook so that you can start and create a digital CV and a history of your occupational experience, or the individuals, your employers, the operators, operating hours, so you can see clearly the history. So that's in development and that's coming next. We've also got a virtual card which will be going live in the next 4 or 5 weeks. And by no means are we going to not be printing cards in the future, because we've asked industry and consulted with industry, and they very much want a physical plastic card for the foreseeable future. What this will do, it will enable a CPCS card holder to tap that against an NFC device, and it will ask them if they want to download the app. If they choose yes to download that app, if ever they forget their card, lose their wallet, leave it in somebody else's van, and all the other excuses we've heard over the years for people not having cards, they'll be able to, they never forget the phone. So they'll be able to access that through their app on the phone and show that card and that category. Again, that can be authenticated against the CPCS card checker, which will then require some manual input. So that's not fully automated. So one of the trials that we're currently doing, we were tasked by industry to try and come up with a solution to prevent dumper overturns. And if we take HS2 as an example, I think most people will be aware that the real project work hasn't really started. The bulk muck shifts, a lot of the enabling works is currently being undertaken. And in the short time that HS2 has been running, they've had 11 dumper overturns, and 6 of them were significant danger where people could have been seriously hurt. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. So Explore, CPA, CPCS, and a company called Track Unit, we got our heads together and sort of said, how can we try and prevent dumper overturns in the future? So there's all sorts of clever bits and pieces of work that we can do now with telemetrics on machinery. We can, for example, geofence an area via GPS through the machine that can say, you can only change the buckets in this area. Some of the other things we can do is fit telemetrics to forward tipping dumpers, articulated dumpers, or anything like that, any wheeled plant, where we can monitor and give audible warnings and alerts to operators if they start approaching the tipping points of those machines. So each of the wheeled machines will have a longitudinal and lateral stability profile, i.e. 10% side to side and 20% forwards and backwards. So we can program that early and give the drivers those warnings and alerts that they would be approaching the overturn moment of that particular machine that they're operating. So we fitted a JCB high vis, which you can see there in the pictures, with some telemetrics, and that now warns and alerts the operator. So if we go to the front end of it and look at the digital check, so the first thing that we can do is check the validity of the card on site, providing you've got a 3G, 4G or 5G signal. That authenticates, you can see exactly what the operator has on the card. Then that gets put by the site management into Track Unit's site manager. So somebody on site will be in control for the machine authorization. So they say, for example, Carl Hassell's got these 4 categories on his card. We're going to permit him to use 2 of them, and we're going to permit him to use them on these 2 types of machinery and their specific plant code, forward tipping dumper number 1, 2, 3, and forward tipping dumper 3, 4, 5, and wheeled excavator 5, 6, 7, for example. So then the machine, as you'll see in the second picture along from the left hand side, has a track unit keypad fitted. So once that track unit manager is programmed, that machine will only start when presented with a card from an operator who's been authorized to use that type or that specific machine. So that's the 2-step authentication. We have had some serious questions, safety concerns, where people have said to us, oh, well, what happens if somebody needs to start the machine in an emergency, or a low loader driver picks it up and hasn't potentially got the right license, etc., so on and so forth, all the connotations. So one of the things that track unit can do on the keypad is create a unique code. So that unique code can be put into the keypad, and obviously that keypad records every time that code's been used, so they can see that that's not being abused either. And then obviously the live monitoring then takes place in track unit. So track unit can start to work with the contractors to see why alarms are going off, why the driver's approaching maximum inclines. If there's significant bumps in a haul road, for example, it might pick that up as a warning. So it really gives a little bit of control, but it really opens up the digital logbook, which I was explaining earlier. It really opens that up, and what we can start to do is if I tap into the machine at 7 in the morning and tap out at 7 at night, and I had 15 minutes break at breakfast and half an hour for lunch, that then starts to build up a picture and record against the database. And that's really exciting for us, because providing the owner of the card, the operator, permits us to start recording that against their card, that gives that operator a transferable CV that he can demonstrate their operating hours that are physically recorded and can't be worked around. So it's a real good record and history. Add that to the virtual card, you know, and allowing individuals to start recording training events where they've undertaken training, etc. Really exciting for industry, and hopefully we can move it on and really make the industry a safer place to be. And that's it from me. No idea how long we've been running. I think 21 minutes. If there's any questions, Rebecca will see them and she will ask me.
Yep. Thanks, Carl. We've just got one question from Kyle Clement. He says, why have the questions not been updated since 2008? I think he's referring to test questions.
Hi Kyle, thanks for your question. So you're asking if the question banks have been updated since 2008. There has been some updating of the questions, and we were alerted a couple of weeks ago that the version control number didn't change. Although if you go into CPCS on, you will actually see on the right hand side there the version date that they were uploaded. So there has been some changes, Kyle. But the version control number needs changing, and that's been pushed back through into our technical department, and they're aware of that. So thanks for your question, Kyle.
Yep, that's all the questions, so thank you.
Right, thank you very much. If anybody's interested, there's probably 8 minutes left of the vLearn presentation, so if you wanted to switch back to the vLearn, some really exciting things there going on there with some immersive learning. Thank you very much for listening. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time and taking the time to join NOCN today.